Hi, Steve Norton, anxiety specialist here, and what I want to talk about today is depression. Now, often when people go to the doctors, what they're told is that the reason for depression is because we've got a chemical imbalance. You're chemically imbalanced, and that's why what you need to do is readdress that by getting some drugs, some antidepressants that will sort out that chemical imbalance that you've got. Now, what I've found is that in the vast majority of clients I've dealt with over the last 25 years, virtually only just a handful have ever had any sort of blood test to determine whether or not they've actually got a chemical imbalance. Most of them, the vast majority of them, have actually just been given medication without a blood test. Now, so if you actually think someone's got a chemical imbalance, wouldn't you think to do a blood test to see whether or not they did? Can you imagine any of the sort of medical procedure where a doctor thought that you had a problem and didn't give you a blood test for it? Can you imagine a doctor just thinking, well, or even saying to you, I think you got cancer, so we'll just give you some chemotherapy. Yet in mental health, that's what they do. They are literally giving people pills without testing them to find out what the real cause is. How often do doctors actually ask you about your lifestyle, about your diet, about whether you exercise or anything like that? Very rare they do. Obviously you get some good doctors that would do that, but most of the time all they're going to do is give you some pills and tell you that take these pills and basically give you the last set of pills they give the last person. Now, let's have a look at depression. So if you had a chemical imbalance, then nothing I did with my clients would work. How come then, having gone through my anxiety program, which includes depression, people get better? If it was actually a chemical imbalance, anything I did with that client would be completely and utterly futile. Yet it isn't. The vast majority of my clients with depression either get quite a lot less depressed or they remove depression completely. So it begs the question, doesn't it? What really is causing this imbalance? Well, I already know what it is. It is the way that we think. Because if you think of people with depression, they do think a certain way. They've got a certain outlook on life. They've got a certain way of thinking about things that is different to people who don't have depression. It's the old half empty versus half full glass. So what really causes depression in the vast majority of cases, and I'm not saying that some people don't have chemical imbalances, they clearly do, but in the vast majority of cases with depression, people are depressed because of the way they think, the way they look at the world, the way they run their brains, the way that they look at the future or look at the past. That's actually what's determining how they feel. Our thoughts create our emotions. What we think about then transpires itself into a feeling. And people who are depressing tend to have depressing thoughts. And they run those thoughts through on a daily basis. And that then in turn creates that chemical imbalance that doctors talk about. But the big question is, which one comes first? Is it the chemical imbalance? Or is it the way of thinking that causes the imbalance? Well, in my experience, in the vast majority of cases, it is the way that we think. It's the way that we think that creates that imbalance. And the imbalance is nothing more than the chemicals that we produce through the negativity of our thinking. And not always negativity either. Sometimes it's just the way that we think about the past events in our lives, things that have happened to us, regrets, guilt, things that you wish didn't happen to you, decisions that you made that you wish you hadn't made, all sorts of things that can create those negative feelings that then can cause that so-called imbalance. Yet when you start to treat the thinking that causes the imbalance, what happens to the feelings? Well, they change. So yes, if you go to see your GP, they're pretty much going to get you on some pills ASAP. But if you actually really want to look at the real cause of it and not medicate yourself up to the eyeballs with stuff that in some cases can have some horrendous side effects to it. Look at solving the problem. Why is my brain imbalanced? How is my thinking? What is the quality of my thinking been like lately? Have I been thinking positively and still feeling unbalanced? Probably not. In most cases, it is the way that we think about things, the way our perception is set up, and different things like that. So I hope that makes sense. And if you want to talk to me about helping yourself through depression, certainly hit me up, get in touch. I'm here to help. And as always, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you again soon for another video. Bye for now.